Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to CropLife's annual Agriculture Industry Federal Budget Breakfast, rather unusually but for very obvious reasons held in October this year. I'm Lucy Barber, I'm from the ABC and I'm also the National Rural Press Club President. I'd like to acknowledge that today we meet on Ngunnawal land and pay my respects to Elders past and present. With us today is the Honourable David Littleproud, Minister for Agriculture, Drought and Emergency Management, and we look forward to hearing from you, Minister, very shortly. I'd also like to acknowledge some of his parliamentary colleagues, Senator Bridget McKenzie, Mr Ken O'Dowd and Rowan Ramsey, all here with us today. Thank you for joining us. We're also very pleased to have with us His Excellency Dr Hugo Xavier Gobi, Ambassador of Argentina, as well as the US Embassy and High Commission of Canada representatives. Thank you for coming too. I welcome also the CEO of CropLife, none other than Matthew Cossey, Secretary of the Department of Agriculture and Water Resources, Andrew Metcalf, CEO of the National Farmers Federation, Tony Marr, and the CEO of the National Press Club, Maurice Riley. And to our COVID-safe audience here in Canberra, and also many of those joining us online, live streaming from their homes or their offices if they're early risers, right around the nation, we welcome you. I'd like to ask you to ensure that you've got your phones on silent or even just turn them off and have a break. Feel free to continue enjoying your breakfast while we hear from our two speakers, Mr Littleproud and Mr Cossey, this morning. Before we hear from the Minister for Agriculture, I would like to introduce Matthew Cossey, as you know, CEO of CropLife. Matthew commenced as CEO back in 2011 and he leads the organisation's strategic management and advocacy on crop protection, agricultural biotechnology and industry stewardship in Australia. Prior to CropLife, as many of you know, Matthew also held numerous positions within the public and private sectors. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you, Lucy, and may I congratulate you on your recent election as President of the National Rural Press Club, an important institution. A special guest, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the board and members of CropLife Australia, I am pleased you're able to join us here at the National Press Club in Canberra this morning for the Agricultural Industry Budget Breakfast. And in light of the tight limit of numbers able to be physically here due to COVID in the room with us, I'm very pleased to welcome those joining us around Australia and indeed internationally via live stream. I would like to acknowledge the original farmers on the land we are meeting, the Ngunnawal people, and acknowledge their leaders, past, present and emerging. I would also like to acknowledge Mr Maurice Riley, the CEO of the National Press Club, who is here, and his excellent team. The MPC have been CropLife's partner for this important budget event since it started 10 years ago. At this event in April last year, I think the Minister and I were just discussing budgets in May don't seem to be a thing anymore. The only two real unknowns or uncertainties that were being discussed were when farmers would get some decent rain and the outcome of the impending federal election. The Minister may well dispute that the second was in doubt at any time. While those two uncertainties have been well and truly clarified, we are now living in what is arguably the most volatile, tumultuous, uncertain and complex time the world has seen since the Second World War, if not any point in our history. There have been tectonic shifts in all aspects of our lives. These abnormal times may well become the new norm for Australia and the globe for the foreseeable future. And they pose new and significantly increased challenges for both government and industry. There is one certainty. The importance of agriculture and food security has been reinforced for all Australians, and the commitment, dedication and skill of the nation's farming sector has shone bright in these challenging times. While the panic buying and empty supermarket shelves in our major metropolitan centres were an unnecessary phenomena, they perhaps had a silver lining in that they have made all Australians focus a little more on the importance of a strong, vibrant and productive agriculture sector. Australia's farmers have forged through drought, fires and floods, and the entire agriculture sector delivered like never before when the nation most needed it, as global pandemic caused the single greatest disruption to trade and global food supply. However, what the last 6 months has magnified is that farming does not happen in isolation. If we expect farmers to be able to do what they do best, it is equally crucial that the critical input and support services and industries that farmers need to grow our food, feed and fibre remain available to the farming sector. This is something that the plant science industry, along with many others, continues to dedicate itself to. Last night's budget and the government's priorities, including those for the nation's agriculture sector, set the scene for the challenges and the focus that the federal government has in piloting the nation through strategic circumstances never before seen. The $100 billion agriculture industry goal set by the National Farmers Federation is perhaps now even more important, and we must ensure that the public policy settings and the regulatory frameworks around ag are facilitating the achievement of this outcome. We know that reaching the $100 billion target will not happen by accident. It will be the result of the dedication, hard work, skills, experience, capital and technology that underpin our agricultural productivity, profitability and sustainability. Maintaining and improving that productivity, profitability and sustainability will rely even more on scientific research and development and the innovations that come from it, and farmers' ability to access and utilise them. Our country can be proud of having the best farmers in the world, and they remain the best by constant improvement in the face of increasingly challenging conditions as a result of the pandemic, delivering a whole gamut of new difficulties. While agricultural issues rarely feature in the newspaper front page headlines about the federal budget, it was very pleasing to hear the Federal Treasurer reference several specific measures to assist the farming sector in his address last night. Minister, we look forward to hearing more from you on the government's budget priorities for agriculture and the issues at the forefront of your mind for the sector as the nation deals with this new paradigm. And we thank you for joining us this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Federal Minister for Agriculture, Drought and Emergency Management, the Hon David Littleproud.
Well, thank you, Matthew, and can I firstly also acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. Can I acknowledge my parliamentary colleagues, in particular Senator Bridget McKenzie, who the former Agriculture Minister, and can I say much of what I'll be talking about today is a legacy of her tenure, and it's important that we acknowledge the role that she has played in that as well. The passion and the commitment that she brought, as well as our National Party colleagues, to agriculture is something that we are very proud of and passionate about, and Bridget personified that to the T. To Kenny O'Dowd, and I think I heard Rowan Ramsey was here as well, to you, I welcome you. Your Excellencies from the Diplomatic Corps, it's great to see you again. To my Department Secretary, Andrew Metcalf, and to his team, who have played such a significant role in formulating this budget and what we are about to announce today. This is about the future of agriculture and about a plan for Ag 2030. It's important that we've laid the foundation stones around agriculture, around the ambitious target that the NFF set. And this today will lead into that and what the budget has achieved. To Tony, to you and your team as well, and I acknowledge that Fiona is an apology today. Fiona Simpson and her leadership in the agricultural sector is something that I think we as Australians should be quite proud of, that our peak agricultural body is led by a woman. And can I say that the agriculture part of the Department of Agriculture and Water, in fact, has hit 50% of female representation on government boards. We hit that only in the last couple of months, and it's something that I drove when I became Minister first in 2017 and took it from 37% now to 50% with the help of Bridget as well. And that was a commitment we made because of the opportunity cost that this nation had lost by locking out much of our best and brightest, the women of agriculture. So that's an enormous achievement that we've been able to undertake during that time as well. But when you look back and think about the last 18 months when I last stood here and how the world's changed, we'd actually only just gone through the northwest Queensland floods where we'd lost over 500,000 head of livestock. We were in the middle of one of the largest droughts we've ever seen, A commitment this government made has now gone into $10 billion. The floods, over $3 billion. And last night, we committed another just under $20 million to make sure that that agency, led by Shane Stone, will continue on, because the work needs to continue. It needs to continue not in Canberra, but out on the ground, at the farm gate, with farmers, understanding them and their communities. It's important that we continue to do that, and that was where we made that commitment. But since then, we've hit this COVID phenomenon, and this is something that has shaken the world and shaken agricultural markets. But one of the things I think we can be most proud of here in Australia, it hasn't shaken Australian agriculture. We have just calmly and methodically gone about our business and got on with the job of producing the best food and fibre in the world. And we should be damn proud of that. The fact is that we've continued to be able to grow ag despite all these headwinds, from $60 billion last year to estimated $61 billion this year. So this goal by the NFF for $100 billion is achievable if we could get some stuff from upstairs and we got some normality to the world. Australian agriculture is well placed because of the adoption of our farmers in cutting-edge technology, backing themselves, backing our communities. And we understand that there'll still be complexities in those global markets. So last night, we committed an extra $317 million to the International Freight Subsidy program that allow our produce, the very best produce, to get into these international markets while COVID is still around the globe. We want not just to be the best produce in the world, but be one of the most reliable suppliers of that produce in the world. So it's important that that scheme continues on, because that will give us a competitive advantage as we come out. To our trading partners, they will know that we have been there through the good and the bad. We've also understood from COVID the challenges that we faced with workforce. And so we're pleased that last night we're now incentivising young Australians, those young Australians, particularly those that will be leaving school, that will want to get onto youth allowance. We're giving them a pathway to accelerate their pathway to be able to have their youth allowance being able to be brought forward in the isolation from their parents. And that means that they can go and work in agriculture, and must work in agriculture, and earn $15,000, and they will be eligible then for youth allowance. But we're going to help them do that, because we understand that some of these jobs will often be thousands of kilometres away from where they are. So we're going to incentivise them with payments of up to $6,000 to help them to get around this country and have a look while they make a quid. This is a call to arms to young Australians. This is an opportunity for you to see your country, to lend a hand to a farmer, not in charity, but in fact to actually make money and support our farming sector achieve the $100 billion goal that we have set, but more importantly in the interim, to make sure that those farmers who have finally got a crop after many years of drought are able to achieve a harvest. So I say to those young Australians, this is your opportunity to go and see your country, to lend a hand and make a quid, and go back to uni with some money in your pocket. I think that would be something that most uni students would normally enjoy. But I think it's also important that this budget, while there's some big ticket items, and particularly can I say that the instant asset write-off is one of the most important aspects of this budget for rural and regional Australia. This is going to supercharge investment in regional and rural Australia. This will allow farmers to invest in new machinery, new equipment, the cutting-edge equipment that will give them the productivity gains that they need, that they continue to invest in. This is backing them, but it's also backing our regional communities, backing those businesses that support our farmers out there in the regions. This will be a regional-led recovery from COVID recession. It will start in the regions from agriculture and resources, because we are the ones that have got us through to this date, and we are the ones that will get us out of it quicker than anyone else, because there has been an awakening, not just here in Australia, but around the world, the importance, the provenance of your food and fibre. And that is our competitive advantage that we must continue to prosper and ensure that we prosecute vigorously around the world. So today, we decided that this budget wasn't just about the here and now, it's about the future. And so today we'll be announcing the National Ag 2030 plan, your government's plan to support agriculture's 2030 vision for a $100 billion industry. Our job is to put the infrastructure and the environment around our industry to achieve that. Then we've got to get the hell out of your life and let you do it. So we've come up with 7 key elements to be able to support agriculture with that. The first one is around exports. We're a nation of 25 million people. We produce enough food for 75 million. So the continuation of exports and being able to engage with the world is so important to us. It's around our biosecurity. Our competitive advantage is having that clean green image to protect our agricultural production systems with high biosecurity standards. It's around our stewardship, the stewardship of our land, because that provenance of our food and fibre is so important, not just to Australians, even more so than ever, but our global customers are also looking for that. So it's important that we continue to invest in our stewardship. It's also about our fair supply chains. This isn't about regulating markets, it's not about regulating prices, it's making sure there are fair prices in a fair market. That's all a farmer asks for. It's about the infrastructure, the connectivity that will get their product to plate, whether it's here in Australia or somewhere else around the world. It's around the innovation and finally our people, and they're intertwined. We've lost generations of young people out of regional and rural Australia. They've gone to the cities, but now we have to create a career pathway back. Not every child can come back to the land. You have to appreciate that the capital values of our properties have gone up significantly. So the entry point is significant in terms of capital costs. But there are careers in agriculture out there, and they need to be new ones. The new, exciting, sexy jobs of agriculture in research, development, technology. And this is where we have been lacking. And the Department Secretary, when he was with Ernst & Young, I charged him with the responsibility of looking at our RDCs and looking at them, are they fit for future? Can we create another pillar of agriculture? A pillar of agriculture that gives a career pathway in regional rural Australia for our best and brightest. Let's bring them home. Let's bring them home with a career and a lifestyle that's second to none. So we've set on that pathway to invest in innovation systems, but the people, the most precious thing, our human capital, and particularly our young ones. And I've lived in Western Queensland all my life, and I've seen generations leave. I represent Western Queensland, and the only legacy I want to leave when I leave Maranoa is that I've kept and brought young people back to Maranoa and to the rest of regional Australia. So to put some context around these 7 elements, around the exports, we're making a significant investment in particularly our export platform to make sure it's fit for future, that it's easy for our exporters to use, but it's easy also for our department. And I, in fact, sat with the department and tried to log through someone wanting to export a commodity from Australia to Indonesia, and I gave up within about 15 minutes, and I got the message that it was damn hard. And that's not just a waste of government time, it's a waste of your time. You are our employer, and I can better place resources in the department if they are working efficiently, and I give them the tools to efficiently do that. But we haven't stopped at just looking at making sure our platform is fit for the future. It's single touch. We've looked at more complicated ways of doing that, working with industries. And we started with meat, and we'll be making some announcements with them very soon as we'll go into the next stage of consultation. And David Hazelhurst is here, and I have to acknowledge the work that he's done in the cultural change that we have brought to the way that the department has handled particularly industries. And yes, there will be some tension and friction at times between the regulator and the industry, and that's fine. That's a good thing, that's healthy, but it has to have the right culture settings around it. And what we've done is change that culture setting with Andrew and David and Rosemary and the team about making sure that they sit down and understand what drives the business. How do we drive their business to make more money? Because when they make more money, they employ more people, and that means our regions are stronger. So we've made connections with the meat industry in particular, where we will see some reforms with them around our regulatory touch, maintaining the regulatory guideposts to protect our brand, to protect Brand Australia, but making sure we embrace technology, the smarts of the 21st century, backing ourselves with the smarts of the 21st century to try and have as minimal touch, but protect our brand as best we can. This has the potential to put savings back in to these businesses, and these businesses are in regional Australia. We're also looking at, obviously, the way that we cost recover. It is a service the Australian taxpayer gives to these businesses, and it must be repaid. And we are under recovering at the moment. But we are looking at this through the lens of technology in going towards a full recovery model, but actually reducing the cost so that the net effect is actually a reduction. That's the smarts that I didn't think I'd see in a government agency ever. But I have to say, David, you have blown us all away. And industry themselves have embraced this. The maturity of our agricultural industries has embraced it because they see this as the way of the future. This is something that we should be so proud of, that we can drive towards 100 billion. We're also working around our biosecurity piece, and this is important. We won't take the foot off around our regulatory responsibility with respect to that. In fact, our funding in this budget's gone up to over $850 million, significant portion. But we're also working with Home Affairs in looking at new technology, particularly in our postal operations, in how that we can actually embrace technology like X-ray scanners to be able to co-opt and cooperate with Home Affairs in getting artificial intelligence to understand whether it's a biosecurity risk or it's one of their risks. And it can automatically show up and we can deploy biosecurity officers at target straight away. More efficient, we can achieve more, we can cover more, and we can keep Australian produce safe. That's backing ourselves with not just saying we just need more boots on the ground, but backing ourselves with actually technology. And that's where we need to continue to invest, as well as the boots on the ground and paws on the ground. We can never forget the role that our dogs play out there. But also around the biosecurity plays into that is our stewardship. And I've already announced, and we've already started the pilot for the Biodiversity Stewardship Fund, and the ANU will have that back by the methodology by the end of the year. But Angus Taylor, in his energy statement, has also put in the opportunity for us to explore carbon in soils. And we're looking at the science about how we can measure that in a cost-effective way. And the goal is to try and get that at around $3 a hectare. And if we can achieve that, then our biodiversity will be from soil right through to the environment. That then gives us an opportunity around a certification scheme that we can show is world-class to our export markets and here in Australia. The provenance of our food and fibre will have been produced in the very best environment, in the very best stewardship. This is something that we are leading the world at the moment, and if we can achieve this in the next 12 to 18 months, then we will be world leaders. So this is an opportunity, and Angus Taylor and I are working closely to make sure that we can try and crack that last bubble with respect to soils. There's also around the fair supply chains and around fair markets. So it's great to have certification schemes, and obviously one of the things that I'm most proud of this government is our country of origin labelling. We brought this in to make sure that consumers were empowered to understand where their food and fibre comes from, particularly their food. When they walk into that supermarket, they can look for that barcode and know specifically how much is Australian ingredients. We're now reviewing that, and we'll hopefully take that now to seafood and also flowers. And I've been pushing the fast food outlets, the national fast food outlets, to also undertake that. But we've gone only in the last couple of months. A key component that the National Party was very strong on was around making sure that the ACCC looked at the interaction of the total market with respect to perishable goods in the supermarket chain. It's important that there is fairness. This isn't regulation of price. This is just making sure there is a fair price through a fair market. The ACCC will give us the advice. We're not preempting the outcome of that, but there's been over 80 submissions to date, and we'll continue to look at see what that outcome is, and then we'll make decisions around that. But farmers aren't looking for charity, they're just looking for fairness, and we'll make sure that we give that. And that's an important plank to the NFF in achieving that 100 billion, and that farmers are treated fairly. The other piece is around the innovation, and this is something that, as I alluded to earlier, that I have a real passion with, and so does Andrew, because this is our way to bring our young people home. We've started on a significant pathway to achieve that, and I have to say that the RDCs themselves have come on that journey as well. And in this budget, part of the Drought Fund $86 million will go into 8 new innovation hubs. And they won't be in sandstone universities in capital cities. They'll be in the regions. They'll be out near the farmers, near the ones that will actually use and adopt the technology. They'll be amongst them so they understand and be a part of the science and the development of this. We do research very, very well here in this country, but the development is often what lets us down. And I have to say, well, that's why the RDCs have come together to create AIA to ensure that the commercialisation, the collaboration, and now the removal of duplication of research is so important. We've got to get back to first principles of value for money for the levy payer and the taxpayer. And there cannot be duplication of research across 15 RDCs. This will put foundation around that to protect the taxpayer and the levy payer, but look to ramp up our innovation. We're number 20 in the world, but we have the same number of researchers in development and science as the United States and Netherlands, who are 4 and 6 in the world. So that says that we're very good at research, but we're not very good at development. So commercialisation of what is the best minds in the world is so important to agriculture. That's where the next pillar of agriculture will come from, our people. A centre of excellence in the Southern Hemisphere where research and development can happen, not in the Northern Hemisphere, but here, right here with the best and brightest minds in the world. Bringing them home, giving them a career pathway, making it an opportunity to have a huge input into regional rural Australia. But to do that, we've also got to go to the last element, which is our people, an investment in our people. And I'm proud to say that Dan Tehan has done a fantastic job in these university reforms. We will see a 62% reduction in agricultural courses. That just makes sense. That just makes sense because we all need to eat and Australia does it better than anyone else. We're also going to incentivise them to do it at regional universities. Young kids from the bush don't have to go to big cities to get world-class education. And Dan also announced last night over $250 million in short courses, particularly in agriculture, to help those to top up their qualifications to be able to take their careers further. So that's an investment in our people, the most precious thing that we have in this country. And if we pull all this together, these 7 elements together, and God forbid it rains just when we need it a few years in a row, then Australian agriculture will achieve $100 billion. It will. Whether it's 2030 or beyond, we've set the framework and we've put the foundation stones there for it to thrive and to move forward. So the opportunities are there now. The Australian government, the NFF, industry have all said, this is the pathway. The Australian government has cut the cheque and now we're going to get the hell out of your life and let you achieve it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Minister, for a fantastic speech. Quite a smorgasbord of measures there in the budget for everyone to digest. And I want to give you some kudos for getting through a budget speech this year without mentioning the words volatile, tumultuous, unprecedented or consequential. So well done. I think there are plenty of things for us all to digest over the next few days and weeks, but no doubt those of you here in the industry and those particularly listening at home or in the offices will take away from this some really interesting things given the pandemic, but particularly that big export announcement. I wish you luck trying to make streamlining export certificates and regulations sexy in the media. But I think, as I said, I think people in the industry will understand the importance of those sorts of measures. So that'll be really interesting to watch. Thank you to all of you who've made time to come today in person or watching from home. We really appreciate it. And I know CropLife, Mr Cossey, look forward to continuing their engagement and collaboration across all agricultural industries. So thank you very much.